This is Wandering Universe. Today, I'll be heading out to the land called Down Under, examining up close and quite personal a gold rush. And it's not what you think. So, let's go exploring. Gold, God's gift to humanity, the salvation from damnation. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's alluring, sparkling, and it's precious. Gold is a marvelous metal that shines like a diamond in the sky. It can either make you or break you. Gold can be turned into anything you want it to be. You can smelt it, weave it, embroider it, gild it, plate it, and even paint it. For humans, it's a love affair, an infatuation, a hypnotic obsession. It's the symbol of our wealth. It's the jewel of our ego. It can even be made into gold bullion, bars, ingots, coins, circuitry, and gold nuggets. Think of George Costanza from Seinfeld. His romantic devotion with velvet, to be covered in it, wrapped in it, sleep in it, just like gold. Even Ian Fleming had a big crush on the word. I guess he needed something to spruce up his James Bond image, like Goldfinger, Golden Eye, the man with a golden gun, and Goldmember. Austin Powers did a fine job setting up Bond ostentatiously. Humans are so bent on gold, they'll do anything to look and feel powerfully rich. It's their badge of honor to achieving financial success that opens doors to a world of new money. But this video is not about glamoring up your social status with gold. No, this video is going on an archaeological dig into another world. We're going to explore the ancient past of the gold fever frenzy. It was exciting times, the best and the worst of times. It brought hope and new opportunities, doing the legwork to get out of the poverty line by chasing after that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Every man, woman and child only had one thing on their minds: gold! Yes, Australia is overflowing with gold deposits. All you have to do is know where to look. According to the pseudo-history books, the Australian gold rush began around the start of 1847 and lasted until the gold hype died out. It's recorded as one of the world's biggest gold rush of all time. Hundreds made a mad dash for Down Under, from California and other parts of Europe, squeezing their way through the queue to try their luck at this insane treasure hunt. If you've watched my last video on pyramids in Australia, I explored pyramids along the New South Wales and Queensland coast. I briefly mentioned Phoenician and Egyptian seafarers who had travelled to Down Under. If you haven't, let's recap. It occurred to me that the history of gold rush wasn't a once-off fluke. Egyptian and Phoenician seafarers did visit Australia from 3000 BC. They managed to have circumnavigated the Indian and Atlantic Oceans using one technology: ships. The world economy during ancient Egyptian and Greek times changed forever over this new fever. No longer dependent on land transportation to pick up the load from another country, they managed to have used a technology that goes far back as to Southeast Asia and China. Many sailors and mariners were toying with the idea of finding this land called the Great South Land. It was rumoured to be filled with gold, and lots of it. This gold prospecting sea mission hit the high seas for thousands of years. The Phoenicians were in search of gold to bring back at the request of their royal kings during ancient Egyptian empire. They embarked on a daring and dangerous voyage, navigating their way to the eastern coast of Australia. And just when Lady Luck was about to pay off dividends, they hit a reef and got shipwrecked. This story was carved along the cavern walls called the Gosford Glyphs, as you can see right here, but I'll go into more detail about that in my next video. The Egyptian mariners were thirsty for a cash grab. They just couldn't hold themselves back, could they? So they went on a very long voyage sailing from the Mediterranean to the Atlantic Ocean and then all the way past the Asian islands, as you can see on this map in front of you, Timor, Papua New Guinea, and then all the way down to the east coast right here. Their first spot of land was along the northern Queensland coast near the township of Cairns. And if you can't see where it is, I'll just point it out for you. Right here, where my arrow is pointing. From there, they went further down the coast, headed towards Gympie. And if you can't see it, I'll show you where it is. Where you see Great Sandy National Park and the Sunshine Coast, well, smack bang sandwiched in the middle is Gympie right here where my arrow is pointing. After that, they journeyed to Gosford. Their story is documented on a rock-carved wall hidden in a boulder cavern in the Brisbane Waters National Park. But they were not the only ones who arrived here. Rumour has it that the Phoenicians sailed here. But the Phoenicians, being hardwired mariners, sailed across the Mediterranean to the Atlantic and Indian Oceans to find gold to import. They travelled far and wide in search of goods and treasures to take back home. They were steadfast in search of high-value treasure to trade. It's not unusual for them to go on very long sea expeditions, as Herodotus pointed it out. A Phoenician expedition commissioned by King Necho II of Egypt circumnavigated Africa for 3 years. So, if merchant trading was high on the king's list, it meant the king was in somewhat dire straits in need of technology to prop up a crumbling economy. That's right, gold. So, the Egyptians built ships like this one to go on risky expeditions, sometimes for months or even years at a time, to go find goods of high value to reset a profitless economy. And to the king, gold was the answer to their problems. These ships were huge, robust, and handled even the most roughest weather. But not all of them made it to Down Under. In fact, very few have. The tomb of the boat is one of many ships that attempted to sail to the Southland. If they did land along the east coast, especially in these mentioned townships, they would have mined for gold with the help of these people, the local Aboriginal tribes. To them, it must have come as a surprise seeing outsiders land on their turf. Rather than giving them a hostile reception, they maybe communicated with the outsiders using either hand signals, drawings on the ground to map out a track to find this precious stuff. To the Aborigines, it's no mystery to them. They would have stumbled across it by accident and never gave it a second thought. It wasn't a precious commodity to them, but they had a pretty good idea where it was located. You've got to remember that they, especially the tribes up the northern east coast, traded with the Asians like the Filipinos, Chinese and Malaysians for hundreds of years, even with Indian, Phoenician and Egyptian mariners. These seafarers mined a large quantity using, well, what else? Primitive tools. But due to the weight of gold, it was too risky to take it all in at once. Otherwise, their ship would sink to the bottom. So, they had to load it on separate ships, one load at a time. These are the types of ships they sailed on. Believe it or not, Egyptian and Phoenician mariners were not the only ones that were hot on the trail for this lovely metal. Yes, indeed, the Georgians were. Take a good look at this map. Study it for a little moment and have a good guess whereabouts the ancients mined for gold. In Sakdrisi in southern Georgia. These ancient tribes simply found it by chance, and their gold prospecting began around 3rd or 4th millennium. So, gold fever was the fountain of wealth, the answer to their prayers. Just about every continent you can poke a stick at were on a hunt for this foxy stuff. It was a precious resource that promised boundless riches that reset a failing economy, only to find out the hard way that it was not a godsend to rescue them out of bankruptcy. For centuries more, Spain, Italy, and other European empires went on a scavenger hunt in faraway continents in search of gold deposits. But bad luck followed them back when it barely covered their royal imperial mistakes, which in turn caused hyperinflation that brought their economy to ruin. Once again, it was a gold heist in the form of printing money out of nothing, and instead of distributing the gold to the masses, they hoarded it. In part 2 of my next video, I'll be exploring at the fascinating myth of the land called Ophir to find out what is the big deal about this particular place. That's all for now.